Good morning, welcome to Shift. If this is your first time here, go ahead and scan this QR code, and if you fill out that Connect card, we'll send you some free Opus coffee. And if you would like to, go ahead and check out the Coffee with Joe option so that you can ask any and all questions that you want or need to know. The Gainesville Area AIDS Project is collecting food donations for Thanksgiving. If you would like to donate towards that, you can either bring them here to the building or you can email them at gaap@gainesvillepride.org. Our next online only service is going to be December 1st, which is the weekend of Thanksgiving this year. I'm telling you now so that you can put it on your calendar. Do not blame me if you show up. I gave you an entire month notice. Our deconstruction Zoom group is continuing the series LGBTQ and the Bible. This week, they're looking at the Leviticus passages. So if you're interested, scan the QR code, scroll down to sign up, and a link will be emailed to you. Our next shift meetup is on November 22nd at 6 p.m. at Las Carretas. I sound so bad saying it, but at least I said it. You can RSVP by using the virtual campus, by emailing or messaging us, or by letting Sandy Frankenberger or Mackenzie Butler know. And that's all I have for you today. So now on to our new series, Stuff I'm Thinking About.
But if you're new, my name is Joe and I help lead Shift. Let me ask an honest question. I want you to be really honest. Anyone tired? Yeah. Anyone feeling a little overwhelmed or anxious? Because I feel all of that. I feel that right now. And everything around us is playing into that. Like our social media algorithms, they were initially designed, and they do a very good job at this, but they're designed to keep us engaged. So they just keep like feeding us the things that we want to see. And then we've got this 24-hour news cycle that's bombarding us with story after story after story. And within the framework of all of those things, we are expected to not only know all the stories, but also to have an opinion on all of the stories, and then to speak out with that opinion the moment those things happen. And that's not reasonable nor sustainable. So today, we're going to be starting a new series through the month of November, and it's literally called Stuff I'm Thinking About, because that's exactly what it is. So next week, we're going to be looking at how do we move beyond the binaries of right and left? How do we learn to stop talking at each other and relearn how to talk to each other? The week after that, we're going to be looking at taking all of this like energy that we have and learning to channel that energy in positive ways. And we're going to look at a local way that we can do that really easily. And we're going to hear from our own Maria Clegg about that. The final week of the series will be about gratitude, about learning to live from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. And just a heads up, it's not a talk on tithing, okay? That's not what we're going to be talking about. But today, what I want to do is I want to take a look at three examples, three different stories that we find in Scripture about something that I feel like that all of us deeply need, desperately need right now, and that's self-care. But before we do that, if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes and to take a few deep cleansing breaths. In through the nose and out through the mouth. As you do so, just allow your body to relax and your mind to go where it needs to. And let me gently encourage you to set aside whatever came before this and to keep whatever is next where it belongs. Just focus on right here. Set your intentions for the gathering. What do you need from this time together? What do you need from me? As we talk through these stories, take note of the things that stand out to you or resonate with you. And when those things inevitably come to the surface, meet those things with love and curiosity rather than judgment. Continue to breathe. And as you do so, I invite you to come back to this space. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So our first story is found in the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament in a book called First Kings, in chapter 19. So in this chapter, we see a prophet of God, which is basically like a spokesperson for God, a person that is the mouthpiece for God. And his name is Elijah. And Elijah, in this moment in his life, it's a very dark moment. He is exhausted. He is literally running for his life. I don't mean that figuratively. He is being chased. He's running for his life, and he is completely overwhelmed by the circumstances that he finds himself in. Now, I doubt that anybody here has found themselves ever having to run for their life, but I'm sure that all of us here can relate to those feelings of being exhausted and overwhelmed. A year ago, just last month, Tori had surgery. My wife Tori had surgery to remove her thyroid because there had been, due to a cancerous tumor that was found on it. And the only reason that it was found was because several months before that, she developed sepsis. And I think some other stuff too. I can't remember everything, but it was a lot. And she developed that because her previous doctor, who we fired immediately, overlooked and ignored several warning signals that her body was giving off. And so she was hospitalized for that infection. And then during a CT scan, they found this growth. And to say we were overwhelmed is an understatement. She had this raging infection attacking her body. She was in the critical care unit. Now she's got a tumor on her thyroid, and the C word has been brought up. And sometimes life just really sucks. It just really sucks. And no amount of church speak makes it better. If God brings you to it, he'll bring you through it. God won't give you more than you can handle. It's all part of God's plan. Listen, I understand that people want to bring love, they want to bring comfort to their loved ones, right? And like moments of stress or seasons of hardships. I completely understand that. But please, for the love, shut up. None of that is helpful. In fact, it's incredibly hurtful, which is why I love this Elijah story so much. I love God's response to Elijah's stress and anxiety. He doesn't come at Elijah with verses or commands or any churchy suggestions. Listen to what happened. It's verse 19 or chapter 19, starting with verse 4. We've got it for you. Then he being Elijah, went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord. He said, take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died. Then he laid down and slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and laid down again. And the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. He napped and he ate. God's response to Elijah's cry of deep desperation was food and rest. So hear me when I say this. Our bodies are not separate from our spiritual journeys. They are integral to them. And in case you didn't hear me, it's right there, and I will repeat it again. Our bodies are not separate from our spiritual journeys. They are integral to them. Theologian Howard Thurman once said this, and we have it up here too for you. There must be periods where we are isolated from the things that clutter. when we separate ourselves from the things that worry, harass, and oppress. Sometimes self-care is as basic as making sure we eat well, that we sleep enough, that we give our bodies what they need to recharge. We need moments where we tend to our bodies with compassion, knowing that taking care of our bodies, taking this care of our bodies is part of honoring the sacred within us. And I know that for many of us in spaces like this one will be difficult because we've been so disconnected from our bodies that we often don't listen to it or treat it the way that we should. It's not unproductive to rest. It is not wrong to say no. It is not sinful. And please hear me when I say this. It is not sinful to sleep in and skip church. It's not wrong to come and just be without doing anything else. The church exists for humans and not the other way around. And loving yourself is just one of the myriad of beautiful ways that we express love and connection to God. Read a book, go sit in the grass, take a walk, stream The Office for the millionth time, journal, nap, eat something really good, like homemade chocolate cake that your wife made for you on your birthday that had espresso baked right into it. Whatever it looks like, take care of your physical needs. Our bodies are not separate from our spiritual journey. They're integral to them. During my 20-something years of being a pastor, I've done a lot of things. I have been part of praying, the opening prayer for like city and county meetings. I have prayed, this one's weird, I know it. I have prayed over road and bridge openings. I really had no idea what to pray. Like, what do you pray for? Don't collapse? I don't know. One time, during we were raising money for a certain mission with a school that was connected to the church, and they had these little jars where kids could put like tickets or something in, and whoever had the most tickets had to kiss a donkey, and I had to kiss a donkey for a mission. That was fun. One time when in the mouth, on the mouth, look on the mouth. What kind of school is this? It was just like right on the face. It was like right on the face because it's a donkey. He wasn't participating. Once, yes, yes, I know. It is an evangelical church. So what are you going to do? One time when I had hair, I had it shaved off on stage for VBS because the kids raised a certain amount of money. I've done a million weddings, which I adore doing. I absolutely love doing weddings. But the one thing that I hated doing more than any other was funerals. I wasn't good with death. I wasn't good with death. I didn't know what to do with it. I knew enough to keep my mouth shut and just be when I sat with families on a death watch. But what did I know? How could I possibly understand the deep and terrible wisdom that comes with loss? I didn't know what to do with or how to process those emotions. In John 11, in John's account of Jesus' life, we see the story where Jesus arrives at the home of his friend Lazarus, and Lazarus had just passed away. And he's met by Lazarus's sisters, Mary and Martha, who are grieving deeply. And this is where we pick up the story, verse 33. When Jesus saw her weeping and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, "Where have you laid him?" And they said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." Jesus is moved by their sorrow and his own sorrow, and he begins to weep with them. Now, notice what he doesn't do. Jesus doesn't rush to fix things. He doesn't diminish their pain. He takes the time to feel his own sorrow, to grieve with those that he loves, and to connect emotionally with the loss. So here Jesus is showing us that emotional self-care isn't about suppressing feelings, which is what so many of us were taught. Suppressing feelings only creates emotionally stunted people. And I'm convinced that this is one of the reasons for the epidemic of men taking those suppressed emotions and raging at the world, or taking those suppressed emotions and then turning it inward, both to devastating effect. Our bodies will process feelings and emotions. That's not the question. The question is, how will we allow ourselves to do it? Emotional self-care is about making space to feel what we need to feel and finding healthy ways and processing those emotions. And so for some, it's a conversation with somebody. For others, it might be professional help. It could be art, creating art, spending time in whatever it is. Emotional self-care is about honoring our own feelings and allowing ourselves to express them in ways that promote healing. But for so many of us, too often, Christians skip past the suffering to get to the healing. We skip past the pain to get to the joy. Even in the songs that we sing, pain and sorrow may last through the night, but joy comes in the morning, right? And it's all upbeat, fast-paced. And while that statement may be true, we are often way too eager to skip past leap past that long, dark night and all of the awful truths that we find there for just that anticipated joy of the morning. I mean, think about like in our church calendar, unless we're liturgical, almost all of us skip past Good Friday so that we can enjoy like the badness of Good Friday so that we can enjoy the celebration of resurrection. But hear me, church, you cannot experience resurrection without death. Theologian Dorothy Soul reminds us that suffering must be given a voice. We're not meant to bear our burdens alone or to keep those struggles hidden. And in the story, instead, Jesus shows us that living in our full humanity means opening up. It means sharing our hearts. It means recognizing that vulnerability is a source of strength and not weakness. And I don't know how you should honor your emotions, right? Like I think if it's a healthy way, I'm not sure it matters what it looks like. And it's your journey, right? It's your path. What works for me may or may not work for you, and vice versa. However you choose to honor those emotions, my advice is to make sure that you just go through them. Don't rush, don't sidestep, don't ignore, don't suppress. Because for whatever reason, those darkest truths carry with them some of the greatest strengths. This last week, um, it was an incredibly busy week last week. I mean, incredibly busy. Not only this stuff, but then like I think everybody knows that I'm a board member of the Gainesville Pride Center. We had our Spirit of Pride Award banquet dinner last night, and there was a ton of prep, and I was in charge of like the gift baskets and the fundraising side of stuff, and so it was lots of phone calls and emails and picking stuff up, and but there was this one day where I got to have this delightfully meandering, leisurely conversation with a friend. And we sat at Fourth Avenue Food Park with our coffees, and we just enjoyed each other's company. And it was a gorgeous morning, and there was a crispness to that breeze, right? That just kind of felt like a change of season, obviously wrong. Um, but it felt like it in the moment, right? And we talked about all kinds of things. We just went where the conversation took us. But there was one topic that we kept revisiting over and over and over, and it was the frantic pace of life right now. And I was reminded of a saying that I had just heard, so don't feel like I'm super nerdy and all this. Like I literally just heard it in a book. But it reminded me of this quote by Carl Jung, who is the father of analytical psychology, who said, "Hurry is not of the devil, hurry is the devil." In Luke's gospel account of Jesus's life in chapter 10, we see there's another well-known story with Mary and Martha, the same sisters that I had mentioned before. And Jesus shows up at their house, and like any good first century Jewish host, Martha invites Jesus and the whole entourage into the house and then begins all of the duties with hosting, but also, especially with somebody of high esteem like Jesus. Her sister, Mary, on the other hand, decides, and we've talked about this story before, decides to sit down at his feet and listens, which also means not just sitting, but also is an idiom that she was a disciple of his, and I will die on that hill. So not only that, but she is literally sitting and listening to him talk and teach. And so Martha's doing all of this work, and she quickly gets really annoyed, angry because there's so many things to do, so many things to accomplish. And where's Mary? She is being lazy and not doing a darn thing. I mean, how dare she? So Martha marches up to Jesus, stops him, interrupts him in the middle of whatever he's saying, and was like, bro, will you do something about my good for nothing sister? I've got all this work to do and she should be helping. And this is his response. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha. Now, hold on, I want to stop there. Just leave it. Anybody ever watch the TV show Big Bang Theory? The Big Bang Theory? Okay, you know how Sheldon, he has that haughty derision? If you haven't seen the show, this makes no sense. But like there's a scene where he's like, that's all I can hear is like, Jesus, Martha, Martha. That's how I hear it in my head. Anyway, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things, but few things are needed, indeed, only one. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. And Jesus gently reminds reminds Martha that Mary has chosen a good and needed thing to pause, to be still, to feed her spirit. And for those of us within the church, too many times, what we'll do is we'll create rituals, right? We'll work for services and retreats. We make more work for ourselves to feed our spirits. But Jesus shows us that spiritual renewal is about finding moments to slow down and connect with what brings us life. It's found in spaces like this, right? But one of the greatest fallacies and sins of the church has been people like me standing in places like this, convincing people like you sitting in places like you that here is the only place to experience that. I personally never experience God more than when I'm watching the sunrise over the vastness of the ocean. For me, it is one of the holiest and most sacred moments to just sit in awe and wonder. It's the sounds of the waves and the smell of the sea, the warmth of the sunlight. It is a full body experience, and I feel both insignificantly small and fully seen in that moment. And so, what is that for you? What brings you into awe and wonder? And do you allow space for that in your life? And it doesn't have to be something big and grandiose, like, the sunrise over the ocean. Some of you like to sleep in. But what are the small moments in your everyday where you can stop and breathe to really see the world and the people around you? Where are those little God winks through the day that if we're not paying attention, we'll miss? Mary's example reminds us that spiritual self-care is deeply personal, and there's no single way to practice it. It's about discovering what connects us to ourselves, to each other, what connects us to creation, and what connects us to the divine. Listen to this reflection said by educator, author, and activist Parker J. Palmer. Self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others. Taking time to nurture our spiritual selves isn't about neglecting others. It's about filling ourselves up so that we can keep showing up in the ways and in the places that only we can. And the examples of Elijah, Jesus, and Mary remind us, especially right now, that self-care is not a luxury. It is a practice woven into our humanity. When we care for ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, we are better able to care for other people. We're reminded that we don't have to be on, right? On all the time. We're invited to pause, to breathe, to trust that God meets us in our rest and renewal just as much as in our action. And right now, in this anxious season, week, let us find the courage to tend to ourselves with the same compassion that we show others. Let us honor the sacredness of our bodies and our hearts and our spirits. And let's remember that self-care is not an escape from work. It is the foundation that sustains it. If you're new, we end each gathering with a time of observation and reflection. And we do that to allow you time to pause, right? And to listen to your body and to listen to the spirit. And so the band will come back up and play so it's not an awkward silence, and lights will be turned down to help create some intimacy. And I will ask questions to guide that process. And then I will pray, and we'll have a time of communion, which are the little cups in your seats. And each week we allow these small symbols to remind us of something. And so today, let it remind us of how Jesus embodied the sacrament of rest, showing us that we are far more than just what we do. So like we began our gathering, I invite you to close your eyes and to take a few deep breaths and allow yourself to feel what you need to feel. Think back to the beginning of our gathering space time together. What was your intention for today? What did you need from me and from this space? Did those things come to you, and what are they saying? If not, why not? And what is that saying? How are you with your own self-care? And is that a product of your beliefs or of our environment? If rest and renewal are woven into the fabric of our humanity, why do you think we ignore it so much? And here's my final question. What is one simple way you can begin practicing self-care this week? And I want you to write it down or put it in your phone. But one simple way you can begin to implement this today. Let's pray. Sacred breath and wellspring of peace, we come to you with grateful hearts, thankful for the reminder that our bodies, minds, spirits are sacred reflections of your love and creativity. Help us to honor ourselves as you honor us, caring deeply for the gifts of our bodies, the depth of our emotions, and the beauty of our spirits. Teach us, divine healer, to rest when we need it, to set boundaries with courage, and to seek peace and wholeness in all parts of our lives. May we feel your presence beside us in our moments of weariness, and may we hear your gentle voice encouraging us to care for ourselves as beloved and worthy. As we go forward, remind us that our care for ourselves is not selfish, but holy. So grant us the strength to nurture our well-being so that we can continue to love and serve and lift up those around us with renewed hearts. Forgive us for things done and for things left undone. Give us eyes to see and ears to hear. Bring comfort to the afflicted, healing to the broken, and freedom to the chained. In the name of the one who shows us the way, amen. Yeah, okay, thank you. Just real fast, we're gonna do a closing benediction, but I just want to really, really encourage everybody to take care of themselves this week. Okay? If that means turning things off or getting off of social media or learning how to use the delete button, whatever it is. Just really, huh? Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Uh, and I will say this, whatever comes our way, it's going to be okay. That's just how it is. It'll just have to be okay. And we can only control what we can control, right? And anything beyond that is beyond us. All right, let me read this closing benediction. May the peace of the Holy One guard your heart and keep you steady. May the strength of the Creator uphold you as you walk in courage and in love. May the wisdom of the Spirit guide you through the unknown paths and shadowed valleys. Go now, surrounded by the deep, abiding love of Christ, that you may carry light into the darkness, hope into the despair, and calm into chaos. May you be blessed with gentle strength, with quiet confidence, and with unshakable grace. In the name of the one who journeys besides us always, go forth in peace, to love, to serve, and to live boldly. Amen. All right, get out of here. Go live on some people.